Training. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 9 of our Salesforce admin training. Today, we're getting into a new session, which I tag Beyond Administrative Tasks. So what that means is we are not going to be doing the basic stuff anymore. We're going to be doing more of what you would expect as a Salesforce admin when it comes to a bigger organization, okay? So when I say what I mean by that is previously we've done the basic stuff, getting started. You should know where objects are. You should know where fields are. You should know where page layouts are. You should know where setup is. You should know how to create a new record, how to edit a new record, okay? Right now, we're going to be using those knowledge of the basics of Salesforce to creating more or better applications. So now I'm going into the service and support applications. How did I get to this stage? If you are following up, you will see that in order to pass your Salesforce exam, look at what I type in here, exam guide, Salesforce admin. I click on this, and according to the curriculum, Salesforce requires us to know all these sections, okay? So this is, So this is the expectations from Salesforce according to what you need to know as a Salesforce admin, okay? So we've done this configuration and setup. As you can see, it accounts for 20% of the entire cost, okay? We've done all this, so you should know all this. If you don't know all this, please go and watch the video and learn about all this. The second one is Object Manager and Lightning App Builder. You should know all this as well. We've done all this and I've explained this. I spent extra 3 days to explain everything all over again. Okay, so we should know this stuff, and it accounts for 20%, 40% of the Salesforce admin, meaning that we are at least 40% through of our training program for admin. However, from a logistics point of view, I think we are about 50 to 60% through, because some other sections are not really they're not really much, and it's something you can easily just talk about in a 30-minute session or 1-hour session. Okay, we are starting this today, which is service and support application. It accounts for 11%. This is very important for those that want to be a consultant. If you want to be an admin, if you want to become an admin, you would probably know how to do a bit of this, okay, but not the intensive aspect of service and support applications. However, if you want to become a Salesforce consultant, this should be your bread and butter. Like, you'll be using this on a daily basis, or telling your customers or your clients what they need to do if they have certain issues. So we're going to focus on this in the next 1 to 2 days, and we're going to focus on this again in the next 1 to 2 days. Once we're done with this, then we can go into data imports, data management, and workflow. We have a lot to do, so let's get started. I like to break things down. So basically, this is just me explaining what we have to do and what we need to do. For instance, case management, case assignment rules, queues, and everything. Then we have to do how to automate case management, for instance, for support process and the likes, okay? So basically, what we're going to be doing today and maybe tomorrow is this. We want to learn about support processes and how it works based on the record types and paths. We want to learn about the case fields, the record page, and the likes. We want to learn about case automation. How do you automate cases? How do you send emails? How do you send auto response rules? How do you escalate a case when it has not been resolved? All this stuff I hope to teach you in the next 1 or 2 days, okay? So without wasting much of your time, let's go right into the trailhead and get started with our training. I'm going to go to the hands-on orgs, and I'm going to launch my playground. So again, we've covered a lot, but now we're going to be going into specific objects and try to explain what that object is all about, okay? So I will start with, instead of me using sales, I'll just use service, okay? It's the same thing, but it's just me switching from a sales application to a service application. So it streamlines what appears on my tabs, okay? So now that we have this service application, we're going to be focusing on cases today, okay? We're going to be focusing on cases today. So what are cases? Cases are objects used by businesses to manage operations, pretty much. So if you want to manage a request from a customer, you want to collect a feedback from a customer, or you want to just communicate with customer in a seamless, timely manner, then the right object to use is the case object. The case object would help you collect information. It will help you respond to information. It will help you communicate with the clients, okay? Or with your customers. It doesn't have to be clients, but customers. Let's say, for instance, if we want to create a new case, where do we go? We go to the new button at the right-hand side and we click on new. So when you click on new, you'll see you have to enter certain fields. And those fields include the contact name, the account name, the type, the case reason, the case currency, which obviously it's something that comes by default if you have multi-currency enabled in your system, okay? So if you don't have multi-currency enabled in your system, I doubt if this will come up. Then you have the case status, you have the priority, you have the origin. So let me explain one or two things before we move on. Case numbers. Case number is an auto number field. It is automatically assigned whenever a new case is created. So if you create a new case right now, you will get what they call a default case number. So it's not something you enter. It is something that is automatically assigned, okay? Now we have the case status. As you can see, we have three options. We have the new, we have the working, and we have the escalated. When a case is first created, by default, it should be new, because when you first create a case, you would have the status of the case as new, meaning that it has not been attended to. No one has picked up that case, or support operations have not started working on that case. That's why it's called new. Then once someone starts working on that case, then it turns to working. This is something you have to change, okay? But I want you to understand something. The case object is for the user of Salesforce. This is not like an admin job. The admin job is to configure the case object to fit the business purpose. So I want you to get the difference between using the case object and configuring the case object to fit business purpose. Okay, so now the case status is something that a case user would change. New, working, escalated. This is what someone that is working within the support team or operation team will be changing when they want to pick up a case. Escalated is when a case has not been responded to within the stipulated amount of time given for that case. For instance, if your business requires you to solve all cases within 12 hours, and if this case is not solved within 12 hours, you want to change the status of this case to escalated cases, okay? So this is where you change case status to escalated cases. It is within the case status. Now, let's go to priority. Priority determines the extent to which this case is important. For instance, if you have a business model that serves basic, standard, and professional, just like we have for Blackforce, the basic would be low priority. Why? Because the basic are not paying customers. They are considered low priority. The standard is medium priority, meaning that the standard are paying customers, but when compared with the professional student or members, then I can assume, or we can assume, that the standard priority is medium. Then we go to high. The high meaning that you have to attend to this case as soon as possible. You have to address or attend to this customer as soon as possible. This is something that is driven based on business. It is not your job as an admin to configure priority. We have the default priorities. However, you can change all this. It can be hot, warm, cold. It can be
Hi,
one.
Babatope.
Sorry.
Sorry, a number of people are complaining they're unable to see your screen. They're having blank screens. They've logged out. They've come back in. Some can see, some can't. So if you can try to stop sharing and reshare, and let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, some people said they can't see. Thank you.
Can you guys see my screen now? Can everyone see my screen? Can just react?
Please just react if you can see his screen. Some are saying no. It's weird. Interesting.
I think everyone can see my screen. If you cannot see my screen, Jen, you probably just need to log out and log in. Okay, so let's carry on. Everyone can see my screen. Everyone is saying yes. So if you cannot see my screen, can you type something? So can you log out and log in again? And this is strange. Why? This is like a common.
Strange.
Well, I cannot give anyone 5 minutes to restart the system. You being able not be able to see a screen, is a function of your system. So if you logged in earlier, you can just log out and log in again. This is strange, but okay, I'm just gonna stop sharing and share one more time, and I will continue. Okay. I expect everyone to see the screen because it has nothing to do with me. It's more of your system. Okay. I'm sharing my screen again just to make sure everyone can see. It's not about browser. It has nothing to do with browser. It has nothing to do with Zoom. It is most likely your computer. Okay. And if you if you log in earlier, chances are you might not be able to see, then you can just log in again. Okay, we have to continue. I'm sorry. We have to.
And if your Zoom is not updated, try to update your Zoom as well. Thank you. Babatope, please continue.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go back to creating new cases. And I believe everyone is still with me. This is very important if you're going to become a consultant, a BA, whatsoever. As an admin, you just need to know. So for today, I'm going to be teaching you how the cases and automation works in Salesforce. However, when we get to Service Cloud, I'm going to go into details because I don't want to overwhelm Salesforce admin with what they shouldn't know right now. Okay, so I will go into priority. Like I said earlier, we have the high, we have the medium, and we have the low priority. Okay, all this stuff can be changed. They can be changed in the back end, and it is based or driven by business requests. So business can turn high into 1, medium into 2, and low into 3. So don't expect it to always be high, medium, low. You can change it. You can alter this priority. Okay. So now we have case origin. What is an origin? What is the case origin? Case origin is essentially where the case is coming from. For instance, if you have a business and you have operation team picking up calls, they're picking up calls, and whenever they enter a case into the system, they need to find out, where is this case coming from? Was it as a result of the call I picked up or the email I received? Or is it coming from the web? For instance, on Blackforce website, we have a submit ticket. And whenever you submit the ticket, it goes into the Salesforce org. That's an example of a case origin that is coming from the web. Similarly, if you send an email to support it comes into Salesforce org, that is an example of a case that is coming from email. And when maybe you speak to Rosemary or someone on the WhatsApp team and they spoke, you guys had a conversation on the phone and everything, and they decide to enter a case on your behalf, because you cannot enter a case that's coming from phone automatically, right? Someone needs to enter it on your behalf, then they can select phone. So the case origin, again, you can manipulate this option, you can add more options, and you can take away options, okay? So I'm going to do an example of a simple case that needs to be created. But one thing you should know when you're creating a case is this. You have the option of selecting a contact, and the contact must exist in the business. So if you're selecting the contact, then you have to make sure that the contact exists in the business, okay? I think we've done some record type of contact. That's why it's asking us this, but typically you shouldn't have that record type option up when you're doing contact. So let me just quickly create a simple contact. I can associate the contact to an account. That's not a problem. The most important thing here is the email, okay? So when you have a contact, obviously you need to have an email for that contact, okay? So now when we're creating a case, I select new, I select medium priority, I select origin as phone, then I have this as my contact, the contact I just created. Remember, it has an email associated to it, okay? Then when I'm submitting a case, can you see this? Send notification email to contact, meaning that when this case has been created, then I can check this box, and whenever I check this box, the contact would get a notification that the case has been created on their behalf, okay? So now you have these fields. As you can see, all the fields that we entered this case details were populated. However, the case number, which we did not enter by default, is auto-populated, okay? Always remember, you don't type in the case number, it is auto-populated. And the contact email automatically appears here, even though I did not enter the email when I was submitting the case, but the contact email automatically appears here. And you can see a lot of other things as well. One of the things you can see is the email that was sent to the contacts when the case was created. So you should know that you can enter a case on behalf of a customer, and you can also see if a customer can enter the case by themselves. That I will go into shortly. But let's go into the case again and look at the fields we have in the case. We have status, we have priority, and we have case origin, okay? So I'm going to go to setup. I'm going to go to the setup, and I will go to my object manager. And I'm going to go to fields and relationship. Remember, fields and relationship is where you can manipulate all these fields. These are fields on the case object. So if you want to manipulate what appears here, you can manipulate them from the fields and relationships. So if you go to status, for instance, and you scroll down, you see you have new working escalated, okay? You have new working escalated. You can add more item. If I want to say working, working new or whatever it is, you can just say not yet opened, okay, as an option, right? I've created another menu called, another pick list value called not yet open, okay? So I can reorder this pick list and put it to the top. Can you see? we have created a new option called not yet open. So it is new, not yet open, working, escalated, close. Okay, or we can bring not yet open at the top. It's up to us, whatever we want to do. The bottom line is you should be able to change or add all these fields. You can update these fields. Like I told you earlier, you can edit I and change it to 1. And you save. You can even add more item to it and say warm. Okay, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. Okay, and you save. That means you've added more item to the fields, to the drop down pick list. Okay, this is how you work with cases. But there is more to cases. There's more to the case object than just the basic collection of data and records. And how do you know what you can do with cases? Salesforce has processes in place. What are processes in Salesforce? Processes are just a way you can optimize the use of your Salesforce org. In Salesforce, we have different types of processes. We have the lead processes, we have the sales processes, and we have the support processes. As you can see, we're currently working on support and service applications. So most of our item for today will be based on just service. However, when we get to the sales and marketing application, we're going to be talking about the lead processes and the sales processes. So now let's go to support processes. This is what Salesforce, what the case object can do beyond just entering data and modifying the pick list value. So what are support processes? Support processes are essentially or technically how you manage your support process, how the business or what the business has put in place to manage support or to manage operations. That is ideal word, to manage operations or to manage your support operations, whatever it is you want to call it. The bottom line is what Salesforce or what the business has put in place to help you manage the business and ensure that customers are happy. For instance, in Blackforce, we have a process that says send an email to support@blackforce.ca. That's a support process we put in place. Email communication, so we can track whatever you have in place or whatever issues you're having. Okay, that's a process. Now, if you have a Salesforce has the support processes associated to the case objects. So when you want to create a support process, you have to ask the business, what type of process do you want to put in place to help your customer? For instance, if I want to create a support process for Blackforce, I can just say standard support process. Actually, don't let me use that. I'll just say paid and unpaid. Okay, then I'm going to create another one. So now I've created 2 support processes, right? What you want to find out is, why are we doing this? What is the impact of creating 2 support processes? This is an example. If every paid customers on Blackforce are required to get maybe an escalated case if they haven't received any response in 12 hours, then you want to ensure that in your support process, the life cycle of attending to a paid customer is different from an unpaid customer. That's support process. You want to differentiate the process which you can attend to your customer based on who they are and where they are coming from. For instance, some people can have web support process, email support process, phone support process. It's a support process. If a case is coming from a web, they should go through a different life cycle, a support life cycle. If a case is coming from the email, it should go through a different life cycle. For instance, if anyone sends a case to Black Force website, chances are they could be a verified member, meaning that they have been registered in the system and they have a single login account. Maybe they are verified. And the other process could be they are unverified member, meaning that they do not have a single login account and we do not know them. So there should be a support process that attends or addresses if someone is a paid member or if someone is a verified member or not. These are support processes, the life cycle which you address or attend to your customer needs. Okay, so now that we've created a support process, the next thing we need to do is to create a record type. You cannot use the support process without a record type. Like as you can see, after creating a new support process, associate it with one or more case record type to apply it to a new case. Meaning that if I want to ensure that all cases coming from the web go through certain process or certain life cycle, then I need to ensure that I have a record type associated to it. Okay, so I'm going to create a new record type. As you guys are aware, yesterday we talked about record types. So I'm creating a record type for paid members. Okay, and I'm selecting paid support process. Remember, you don't have to select everything. Just select the profile which you are interested in. Okay, so what can you observe here? What can you observe here? I'm looking for the basic user profile, but I couldn't find it. What does that mean? It means maybe the basic user profile does not have the right access for the case object. Maybe the basic user profile does not have the case object does not have the right like cred for the case object. By cred, I mean create, read, edit, edit and delete. Okay, so that's why you cannot see the basic user profile. So this stuff is automatically configured based on the access on the profile. So I'll just limit it to system admin for now, and I click on next. Okay, this is quite strange, but it's an interesting one to know. Okay, so I click on next, unless this is a different org. Just give me 1 minute. This is a different org because I used a revision org the last time, and maybe the revision org does not have basic user. So just give me 1 minute. Yeah, so it doesn't have the basic, so we have to create the basic just for learning purpose. Let me just quickly clone this and create the basic, because even though if the case object is not assigned to the profile, we should still see the profile comes up, right? The profile should still be there. It's just a case of not having the right object access. That's it. Okay, so even though you're not giving the profile a case object, you should still be able to see it in the list of profiles. So that was why I said it was strange, because I expect it to still be there regardless. Okay, so now we have the basic user profile created, which is nothing but a clone of the standard user. Now I'm going to go back to my case object, and I will go to my record types. Okay, and I will create the case record types again. I'm going to call it paid members support process. Okay, make it active. I don't want to select for every profile. I just want to select for the basic profile and the system admin. Okay, then next. Then you can associate a page layout as well. But because we don't have multiple page layouts, I'll just use the default page layout for all the profiles, and I save. Then the next thing is I'm going to create another record type, and I'm going to say unpaid members, okay? And I'm going to select unpaid support process, and I'm also going to make it active. Then I select basic user, and I select this, okay? So now, as you can see paid members default. What does this mean? It means if we have two record types, or if we have two record types active for this profile, you have the opportunity to select either paid members record type or unpaid members record type. However, if we have just one, the paid members will be the default record type selected for basic user. So if this basic user profile has just one record type, then if this basic user wants to create a new case, the default will be the paid members record type. Okay, that's what it means here. And you can change this if you want to change this. Okay, but we don't want to change this. You can change it if you want to. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to select case layout and I save. So right now we have two processes in place: the unpaid support process and the paid support process. So what's the purpose of this? Why are we doing all this? Because right now we haven't done anything special. We've created two processes and we've created two record types. What is the purpose of what we've just done? Now, let's imagine a paid member wants to submit a case, or a paid member submitted a case. What should happen? This is where the differences come into play. What are the options that should come up for priority when a paid member is submitting a case? You can see currently we have one, medium, low, one. Let me change this back to high so we don't get confused. I'll go back to priority and I will change it to high so we don't get confused, because initially it was high, right? I have high, medium, low. Then I will change this one to not applicable. Nothing special about this. It's just for us to have, variation in terms of what we can do, okay? And when we have status, I would change. We have new, not yet open, escalated, with management, okay? Save. So now that I have created options for us to play around with, I'll go back to record types and I click on paid members. Now, what we're doing here is this. What are record types? Record types are types of records in the system, and it determines the pick list value. Like I said yesterday, it determines the pick list value that should appear when you're creating a new record. Okay, so it determines what should appear here. That's what record types are. So now what we're doing right now for paid members, I want to go to the record types and I will say not applicable should not be part of the options for priority on paid members. And I save. Then I go to status. Where's the status? I go to fields and relationships. I go to status. And I can edit not yet opened. Okay. And okay, don't let me do that. Let me edit this status. No, sorry. Let me go to the support process just to show you where that comes into place. Because support processes is based on the status. Okay. So what that means is that if you have a case right now, the support process you select for that case the status, the support process for that case would be the status will be controlling, the support process will be controlling the status in terms of what options you have here. However, your record type will still be controlled by all these pick lists. Like the pick list values will still be controlled by the record type, but the support process predominantly is affected. The status is affected based on the support processes selected. It's very important you know this, even for your certification exams. When you're selecting support process, the impact is on the status of the case. However, for the record types, you can control priority and case origin. Okay, so now that we have two support processes, if you click on one of these, you will see that the only thing you can control in the support processes is the status. So right now I said paid support process, I don't want them to have not yet open, because anytime a paid support process is being in place, is being executed, or is being selected, then these are the options I want to have as my status. Okay, I save. Then I go to unpaid. Anytime an unpaid support process is selected, I don't want to escalate unpaid support processes. Why? Because I feel like unpaid support processes should not be escalated. In addition to that, with management, I don't want the management to be attending to unpaid support processes. It should go through the normal process, and I save. As you can see, the processes are only being affected. The status are only being affected based on the processes you've selected. However, your record types are being affected. The pick list values you selected are being controlled by the record type. So try to understand the impact of the support process. Is very important. Okay, so now that we have this, we've made some changes. Let's test our new case. Let's see how we are going to create a new case. We select a new case. We select paid members. We go to next. Then we go to the origin, which is fine. The priority is high, medium, low, and is new working escalated with management, which is what we're expecting. Similarly, we go to unpaid. We go to the status, new, not yet open, working. We go to priority, we have not applicable. And we go to case origin, we did not make changes to this, so this is fine. Okay, so this is how the support process works. And if we try to create a new case right now, you would see that you would see how you can determine. This is it. Okay, one thing you will understand, you will realize, is that there is no part. Remember, there is no part in the case. And if you want to add the part, all you need to do is edit the page and add the part to the case. Okay, all you need to do is edit the page and you drag the part into the case. Okay, so but before we get into all those page layouts and on the arranging of all these items, let's go back to why we are using the support processes. Again, if you want to find out what options you have for cases in the quick find, all you need to do is type in the case, and you will see a lot of things you can do with the case. As you can see, the case, we have what they call the assignment rules. We have what they call the auto response rule. We have what they call the case teams, and we have what they call the email to case, web to case, and the likes. Okay, but I want us to see what happens when we create a new case. Let me try again and create a new case. And I'm selecting paid members. I'm selecting a particular contact, and I'm going to leave all these default. And I'm going to select send notification email. Save. So when you create this case and you select send notification email, the owner of this case would get an email. This is one automation, one case automation that we have put in place, and it is out of the box from Salesforce. automation that sends an email whenever a case is created. So if I check my email right now, I should be able to see the case that was created for this contact. This is the first automation in place. It's out of the box from Salesforce. Now let's go into another thing we can do with case. And this is one of the most interesting parts of case. The assignment rules. What are assignment rules? Assignment rules are rules which you've created to assign a case to a user in the system. Let me explain that again. If you have a big organization and you have to manage 100 or 200 customer complaints on a daily basis, that can be very overwhelming if you have to manually go and assign this case to a particular user. As you can see, anytime a case is being created, it is assigned to the person that is creating it internally. It is assigned to Babatope Olajide because Babatope Olajide is the guy that is creating this case. If another user is logged in and you create this new case, it will be assigned to that user that is logged in. But that's not what Salesforce wants, or that's not how businesses operate in an ideal situation. Imagine, for instance, we have our manager called Rosemary, and Rosemary creates a case. Every time Rosemary creates a case, it is assigned to her. Then we have a lot of cases in the system, which is not effective in terms of business operations. So what Salesforce helps us to do is you can assign a case to different people in the system based on criteria. So assignment rules ensures that you can assign a case to a user of your Salesforce org that hasn't created that case. Right now, anytime I create a case, it is assigned to me. But I'm saying, okay, using assignment rule, I want to ensure that even though I created this case, it shouldn't by default be assigned to me. It should be assigned to someone based on the information I am providing or I provided during the case creation. So assignment rules ensures that you can assign a case to someone different aside the record creator. How do you do that? You create a new assignment rule or you use the standard assignment rule. You can only have one assignment rule in place. So if you want to create a new assignment rule for Blackforce, for instance, and you make it active and you save, then the Blackforce assignment rule will kick in or will become active, and the standard assignment rule created by Salesforce will be deactivated. So my point is this: whenever you override the assignment rule created out of the box by Salesforce, you will be disabling the assignment rule and you will be making these active, the ones you just created. So remember, you can only have one assignment rules in place. And assignment rules are rules that you've created to assign a case to a different person besides the case creator. Now, let's go into assignment rules. I've created Blackforce assignment rule. Once you've created an assignment rule, that's it. You need to now create what they call rules entries. The rule entries ensures that you can assign a case to a given user. Before we do the rule entry, let me see how many users we have. So we have test user, which is accounting department, and we have this user, and I think 2 users are fine. Let's go back to assignment rules. I go to Blackforce, then I want to determine who gets a case if the case is from a paid member. I want my senior members the senior members of Black Force should get a case when the case is coming from a paid member. Okay, I go to new and I have to determine an entry criteria, rule entry criteria. The rule entries are the conditions that the case data must match with for it to go to a particular user you want to assign the case to. The sort order is which one should kick in first. For instance, if you have 10 rules entry, which one will run first? If you put 1 here, then 1 will run first. If you put 2 here, 2, then the first one will run, then the second one, 2 will not run. So let's start with 1. Now I'm saying, if this case, I'm going to check the case and I'm going to say, if the record type, okay, equals, I'm going to select paid members. A pop-up appears. I know you might not be able to see that pop-up, but the pop-up appears and it says paid members. So if the record type equals paid members, I want to do what? I want to assign this case to my test user. So I click on this search icon. I select the user, test user. I click on this search icon. I selected the record type, paid members. So it's saying select the criteria for this rule entry. Criteria means what the data must match with in order to assign this case to a different user. So as you can see, when we create a new case, we say paid member and unpaid members. This is a record type. Now I'm saying if my record type is paid members, if the case record type equals paid members, if my record type is paid members, I want to select a user called test user. That's the owner of the case. Instead of the case going to the person that created the case will go to test user, because my assignment rule says if the case record type equals paid members. Now let's see how this works. I go back to my assignment rule and make sure that we have the assignment rule in place. Then let's go to new, paid members, next, and we do the same thing, but this time around, we have selected paid members. But remember, you need to select assign using active assignment rule, meaning that by default, if you create this case, it's going to go to Babatope Olajide as a case owner. However, if you assign using active assignment rule, it will ensure that the case goes to the right owner, which is the test user. The assignment rule kicks in automatically based on the condition we set in the rule entries. Now, let's do another one. I'll say this is number 2, and I'm going to use the same thing again. But this time around, I'm going to say equals unpaid members. If the case record type equals unpaid members, then I want to assign it to Babatope Olajide instead of the test user. You know, the previous one we said paid members, then assign to test user. But now I want to assign to Babatope Olajide for unpaid members. I save. Then I go back here, I refresh, I click on new, unpaid members, then I create the case, okay? Then I save, but make sure that you have assign using active assignment rule checked, otherwise the assignment rule will not kick in. I save. Now it has been assigned to Babatope Olajide. That's how the assignment rules work. It works based on rule criteria. So now, if I decide to create another assignment rule. If case record equals paid members, and I assign it to Babatope Olajide, but I made it rule order 2, not 1. The first one will kick in first, which is going to be assigned to test user, and the other one will kick in after. But that one you can practice on your own. The bottom line here is you can assign a case to a different owner besides the case creator. In addition to that, there is what it's called auto response in Salesforce. The auto response, the case auto response rules is just the same, it works the same way as assignment rule. However, for auto response, you just need to send an auto response email whenever a case has been created. And for auto response, you need to have what they call an email template. Look at, automatically determine which email templates to use when sending auto response messages for case. Remember, when we created a new case, we got this message automatically. This is an auto response in Salesforce, and it is automatically created generated whenever you create a case. However, Salesforce is telling us that if you don't want to use this generic email, you want to use something else. Whenever a paid member sends a case, submits a case, you want to tell them that they can actually book a mentor if they are struggling. However, if an unpaid member sends a case, you don't have to put that message there because unpaid member does not have the access to book a mentor. So you want this email to always change based on the member status. This is where the case auto response rule comes into place. You can determine which email template to use whenever a new case is submitted. Now I'm going to say Blackforce auto response, and I save. Okay. The same way assignment rules work is the same way auto response works. However, for auto response, it has to do with the email templates, the email the person is getting. For assignment rules, it has to do with who owns the case owner. Okay, so now I want to create a new rule entry, and I want to say it's going to be 1. It doesn't matter. I'm going to say record type equals paid members. And I'm going to say specify the name and address to include an auto response message from line. From line, what does that mean? The from, this is what they're asking. Okay. Then I can just say Blackforce. And the email address. The email address must be an email address of a user that is verified in the system. So you cannot just put a random email address there. It has to be a user that has been verified in the Blackforce system. Okay. Then it's asking you what email template to use. This is an email template. However, you can create your own email templates. So let's see how to create. Before we see how to create an email template, let's use a generic email template for now. I want to go to Lightning. Okay, the best way to do is to actually create that template. Okay, I'm going to go to setup, go to email templates, Lightning email templates. I make that available. Lightning email templates, I make it available. Then I go to the front end. I type in email templates. Okay. Remember, I made it available first before I go to the front end to type in email templates. So let me do that again because a lot of you guys will miss this. I go to setup. I type in email templates. Email templates. Okay, Lightning email templates. I enabled it. Okay, I enabled this. Then I now go to the front end. I type in the email templates. Then I'm going to say new email templates, paid members cases. Okay, and I just say auto response email when a paid member sends or creates a case. Okay, I can put it in a public folder so it can be accessible. Then I will just say your case has been received. Okay, then I can just say if I want to use a merge feed, let me see, from the contacts, I can use a merge feed from the contacts. Okay, and I can just say insert merge. Then I'll look for the name. Where is the name? Or I can just say type in name here. Okay, first name or full name. I want to, this is coming from full name. Okay, insert. So I'll just say, hello, your case has been created. This is for paid members. Okay, thanks. Then you can style it. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay, that's just email templates. Remember, paid members cases, save. The same way, I go back to new email templates. I want to do unpaid members cases. Okay, this is the email sent for unpaid members. Okay, the same way, I type in contacts. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to use the values from the contact records. This is the contact. If I go to Babatope Olajide right now, I have what they call the first name, the last name, all these fields. I want to use it in my email templates. That's why I am doing this, okay? I'm related entity type. I'm getting the contact object, and I want to make sure that I can grab fields from the contact object. I can grab it in my email template, okay? That's the only reason why I'm doing that. And how do you bring those fields? You do insert merge field, and you select whatever field you are interested in, okay? I'll use full name just like I use for the paid members, okay? But this time around, I'll just say, hello, your case has been created, okay? Unpaid members, okay? So I just say unpaid members case, okay? Then I save. Now I've created two email templates. One of the email templates will be used for paid member, and the other email template will be used for unpaid members. So now let's go back to our auto response rule. Our auto response rule says, if the case record type equals paid members, let's use the paid members email template. Previously is in Classic. I'm going to change it to Lightning. Okay, now I've changed it to Lightning, and I'm going to select paid members email templates, and I save. This is, so now it's telling me it's in blackforcedemo@gmail is an invalid from email address. So I need to use an email that is associated to the system, okay? We have to go to our org wide and see what emails are available so we can use. So let's verify an email, okay? Let's verify an email. Blackforce, and I want to use blackforcedemo@gmail.com. Save. Okay, so now it's going to send me an email. So for me to verify that email, it's just for me to verify. Once you verify, you wouldn't have to go through this again. Okay, so now it's verified. I go back to my auto response, and this should work now. Okay, save. Okay, so now this is the first instance. Whenever the case record type equals paid member, make sure you use the paid members cases. Go to new, to record type. I'm using record type, but you can use a lot of things. Don't limit it to record type, but like record type is the easiest for me to easily use. But I can use owner, I can use origin, I can use a lot of things. If the source is from web, uses templates. If the source is from phone, uses templates. So don't limit it to just record type. You can use a lot of things, okay? Then I make it unpaid. So whenever the record type is unpaid, I want it to still send an email, but make sure that the email template that is being used is unpaid record type, okay? Unpaid email template, okay? And I save. So now we've seen how to create auto response rule that would have different emails based on the record type. And the record type is associated to the process. Can you see how this stuff works? So let's test this. I want to create a new case, and I want to make sure that the case is a paid member record type. For simplicity, I will select the same contact, and I will say it's email, okay? And send email notification, okay? Send. This is a paid member stuff, okay? So now let's go to my email. Sorry. Just 1 minute. I think I needed to case record types equals paid member is my auto response. Just give me 1 minute. Let me check. Let me test that again. It should work, but let me just quickly test that. Just give me 1 minute. Auto response. Case auto response rules. Case. I just want to test something. Just give me 1 minute, okay? Email to case escalation. That should work. It's strange if it's not working. So the first one is paid members, and it's meant to use paid members cases, which is, this is for paid members. Last use date, it hasn't been used yet. Okay. Yes. I get what's happening. So basically, for auto response, it needs to be coming from a different source. Okay, it needs to be coming from either web or stuff like that. So just give me 1 minute. Let me confirm that it needs to be coming from the web. Auto response case, web to case. I just want to confirm that before I test it, because typically if you send notification to user is different from auto response. Auto response is when a user initiates a process. Okay, auto response rules lets you automatically send email responses to case submission based on the record attributes. For example, you can send an automatic reply to customers to let them know someone at your company received their inquiry. Okay, so this requires the user to actually create that. Okay, to create this, just give me 1 minute. I want to read this out. Enter auto response rule, select case auto response rule on, then you click new and you make it active, which is fine. Then you click new to run the detail page, enter a number to specify the order. The rule process entries in this order. Rule stop processing at first matching, which is fine. If no auto response rules apply, then Salesforce sends an email using the default template specified on the web to case. Okay, so right now, as you can see, it is something that has to do with the customer initiating the process, not an internal user initiating the process. So I'm gonna get back to auto response rule example very soon. Before I get into that, I would like to take a quick break, like a pause, to find out from you guys if you're following me, if this makes sense, because we're now getting a bit technical. So I want to find out from you guys if it makes sense before I demonstrate the auto response rule practically, because we need to create web to lead, and I don't want to go into web to lead without asking you if you're following me and this makes sense to you. So I'm going to take a pause. Raise your hand up so I can find out if you guys are following me and you understand the support process, you understand the record types and the impact of the record type, and you know what is going on in terms of assignment rule. Okay, let's quickly address that before I do the web to case. Okay, please raise your hand up so I can call you according to how your hands are raised, and we can easily quickly answer this question. I'm going to call Opeola. Unmute yourself and speak, please. Opeola.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Just one question. I understand the whole process of the case assignment rule you did at the back end, but I noticed at the front end, there is an option to change owner. Like, can you go to the front end in one of your tabs? Yeah, so there is an option to change owner. What does this really do? Is it different from the one you did at the back end, or it's still the same thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. The assignment rule automatically assigns the owner. So you don't have to do it manually. It's automated process. Okay, that's one of the case automation. Whereas this is just a case of a user going to the case and changing the owner of the case. This is a manual process, whereas the assignment rule is automatic. Okay? Babs Ken, please.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing, sir?
Good.
So I think you answered my question, which is, I know we are not into those automation processes like flow, like workflow rule, and all of those things. I get confused sometimes. Is it clear to say that case assignment, auto response rules are all forms of automation? Because it sounds to me like we're trying to create the process that has minimal or no manual intervention. That's my first question. The second thing is, I know when you were working on your email template, if you don't mind opening that, I can show you what I see there. I think there must be a way in the email that you open that we use as example in class. There was one that showed, I think it showed the email went into your mailbox, basically. That's what I'm looking for. You had it in your mailbox, correct? The one that was used. Now in there now, okay, very cool. You see where you have babatope.olajide@gmail via these numbers. I assume these numbers that is long. There's a way to obviously close that number in the system. Is that correct?
So what do you mean clone number?
Close the numbers, meaning instead of having the very long email, I know you're supposed to obviously is linking it through Salesforce autoresponder. That number now, is there any way to make it cleaner?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go into that. That's where we wanna go into web to lead and email to page. So once we address that, I will show you.
Okay. I assume that should be possible. Then the first question obviously is about automation. When we are answering questions about automation, do we say that case assignment rules and auto response rules are also forms of automation?
Yes, assignment rule, auto response rule, escalation rules, they are automation, but predominantly assignment rule and auto response rule.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Afia, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Hi, I just have a question regarding the rule entries. Is there a limit to how many you can have, for example?
I think you can have as many as possible, but I think you can have up to 10 or more than that, because I've seen a lot of rule entries. So you can have maybe 100, let me see. Maximum rule entries. Case, Salesforce, assignment rule. I think 100, I'm not too sure. So limit for auto response rules. These are the kind of stuff you don't memorize. You just, if you're an architect, you will know this, and you as an admin, you don't need to know it because they will ask you to go do it, right? So this is the total rules across objects per object. As you can see, we have 200. This kind of stuff you don't memorize it. Just rules per entries per rule. So almost 3,000. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No worries. Ella, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, Babatope. Good evening. So I just wanted to ask, is there a way to, like, do we have to manually put in the email address all the time? Or there's a way to automatically select as many emails as possible? For instance, if you are doing the case thing, right, you have to now be putting the email address of the auto email you're trying to create at every point in time. I don't know if you get my question.
If you're using, yeah, I get what you mean. So you're saying that, which way is gonna
every time
that auto response. Yeah, you have to for that particular rule you've created, you have to be putting the email address of the person that will be from. It's just a special email that is being received from the user, right? So you can determine that, or you can use the same email throughout. It's not a big deal. It's just a case of differentiating who is sending this from. For instance, it can be paid members at blackforce.ca, right? And it can be unpaid members at blackforce.ca, depending on the template. So yes, you can make changes to this, unlimited changes.
It means, sorry to cut you short. So it means you would have put all the emails of the paid members in a particular place? No.
This has nothing to do with the people you're sending it to. This is a template. It says specify the name and address to include in the auto response from line. What is from? From is this. This is from. So who is sending this? That's what Salesforce is asking you.
Okay.
Okay. So the from line. Yes.
Okay. We've not gotten to the tool part. Okay.
Yeah. The tool part is going to be the customer, the person that owns the case. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Abiola, unmute us. No worries. Abiola, unmute yourself and speak, please. Abiola Odudele, unmute yourself and speak, please. Chema Richards, unmute yourself and speak, please. Okay,
hello,
Abiola.
hello.
Yeah, Abiola.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Babatope. My question is actually on, when you wanted to do this, to start this thing, you use the email. Assuming the case is generated through the phone or the web, where the person will be getting the auto response through the phone as well, or maybe SMS or any other means.
Yes, so the phone we cannot demonstrate because you need a special tool for the phone case, and it's mostly entered by the customer agent or customer service representative. But for the web is what we're going to demonstrate shortly. Okay.
Okay.
So for the web, the email you put while you're filling the form is where the customer will get the email. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Chairman Richard, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Hi, Babatope. Good evening. So for me, I just want to align my thoughts with what I already know and also ask a question in case I'm deviating from what you explained. Now, from experience and working in an organization, what I know about cases is that you have a problem, like a user of whatever application it is, and then you feed that into the system, and that goes to your system administrator, and that's a case to them. And then when that case is resolved, that thing is being closed. I want to understand if it's the same type of case we're talking about here first, then I want to ask my question, or maybe my normal knowledge is conflicting with all of what you're explaining.
No, it's the same type of case. Case is case. Case is
Okay.
attending to customer complaint, attending to customer needs.
Okay, perfect. So someone asked about change ownership, and that's where I was a bit confused, because when I saw that thing, I understood what it meant, but you said that is where the user can assign it to somebody else. So I'm thinking, how does the user get to assign to somebody else? Is it not the system administrator? Because I remember that if you log something and after a while, it's been escalated and whoever it was assigned to hasn't taken care of that issue, the system admin can reassign the case to somebody else on ground. But you said the user reassigning it. So I wasn't quite sure how it happens and if it was the same knowledge of case I knew, if it was what you were explaining. And that's why I had to start from where I started.
So the user do not reassign case. The owner of the case can reassign the case. So if I were to be the owner of this case, I can go to change owner and reassign a case to a particular user. Okay. So that's what the case owner can do. That's the ability of the case owner. However, in terms of automation, the rule entry determines who the case owner or who the case is assigned to. The rule entries we created in assignment rule determines that. And lastly, the admin does not assign cases. The admin responsibility is to configure all those pick lists and stuff. However, the business, the people working in operation team can go to a case and reassign that case like this. You just go to a case and say, okay, this case is currently Babatope Olajide. I'm going to reassign it to test user. That's it. They can just change it and reassign, but you need to have the privileges to do that. You need to maybe have the create, read, write, and all those kind of privileges in order to do that. So understand from a user point of view. When I say a user, it should be a user that has access to Salesforce. But the case owner is not typically a user. The case owner is probably a client, a customer. They don't get to see all this. You guys submit cases in Blackforce, but you don't see all this, right? You only submit cases and you read your emails and you see responses. What if all those emails are sent through Salesforce? How would you know? You wouldn't know. So the user, when I say user, users are users of Salesforce, those that have access to Salesforce. Okay? When I say case owner is a person that is assigned to this case and they can change the owner anytime. And when I say customer clients, those are the people that are reading the case and they are making comments and saying, okay, I want this case attended to as soon as possible, or the likes. Do you get what I mean?
I think I still miss you somewhere. So you talked about that the operations people can reassign this. Who are these operations people? I don't know, the system administrators.
They're not this. Look, at when you have a business, for instance, Blackforce right now is a business, right?
Okay.
And we have operations team. There are like 5 people working in operations team. That's operation users. System admin is someone that has been employed to configure all what we did throughout the beginning of this class, not this class, but this session. They are all system admin stuff. System admin would not be attending to cases. System admin will be configuring fields and relationship, building models, making sure that the page layout is nice. That's the job of a system admin. This one is now operations, people using the case objects, those that have username and password. They don't have the setup access, but they have username and password. They come into the Salesforce and they can take up cases. Have you ever worked as a customer service rep before? Do you have the ability to change all this stuff? No, but you can see data and you can attend to them. Those are the operation team, customer service rep.
Okay, thanks.
Do you get?
Yeah, I get it now.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
No worries. Abisa, you unmute yourself and speak, please.
Okay, hi, Babatope, thank you. I have a quick question, please. I noticed that when we were looking at our status in our cases, the closed status was not showing in our drop-down list, even though it was at the back end. Could you explain why we don't have that in the drop-down list?
Because when a case is completed, it is closed. Okay, so when you close a case, you don't see the closed status, but it is like a status field, right? And you will specify the close would automatically appear. The only reason why we don't have the close is because it is not something you select. It is something that you initiate. I want to change the status of this case. And how do you even change the status of the case? Let me see. Where is the life cycle? We need to have a path on this case. Let me drag paths. Activate. Save. Okay. Just assign as hog default for now. Save. Okay. I showed you how you can create paths, I think, in some modules. The path is not coming up. Since you have a record type, you need to create path settings, new. Paid paths. Okay. I'm selecting case. I'm selecting paid members. I'm selecting status. Next. Active. Finish. Sorry. So now I have the paid path for case. Okay. Then I can go to, let me make sure that refresh this. Okay, change record type. Oh, it's paid already. Save. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Let me create a new case. Paid. Or even before that, we can just go to the case layout. Case. Fields and relationships. Layouts. Case layouts. And I want to look for buttons. Submit for approval. Case close. Close case is there. Close case. Close case. So close case is there. Okay. Let's go to quick action. Is yeah. So I have close case. Okay. So we should be able to close this case. We should be able to close this case. Normally you have a path whereby you just click close and you just close. But let me see the options here. Case reason why a case is open. And why is the close not coming up? Just give me 1 minute. Two. Okay, this is strange. Let me see. To preview. Let me preview as a system admin. Okay. So I just want to make sure that the button is appearing for a system admin. I know you guys might not be able to see this, but I can see close case as an option. So case close page layout, which is this. That's fine. Let me go to case settings. There's no option for case close. That's strange. Paths. Let me have a master path just to be sure. Still case master. Case type master. Status. Next. Activate. Finish. Because once you start creating record type for cases, the path needs to be defined as well. Then you have case unpaid. So I have all the record type for that unpaid. Status. Next. Next. Status. Finish. Okay. So we have all that, then edit the page again, ensure that it's active for the profile. This is the part, select the part. Okay, and that's fine. So case master paid and unpaid, and set up part. I don't need to set up part, I already set up the part. Yeah, so I just need to save, activate, remove a app to case. I'll check sales later, but let me see service. Yes, service. It's not showing service. Sales. Save. Okay, save. Get back to this. Sales. Get to cases on sales. I'm just testing this because that's the way you can troubleshoot. There might just be some, so it's showing on the sales and it's not showing on the service. That's a bit strange. But this is the close I was referring to, right? So if you have like it, all these ones are closed, but if I go to all open cases, and I can just click on close, and once you mark it as closed, then that's how you see the close. Even though the close is not appearing, you will see that. I just want to find out why it's not showing on service. That's strange, but let me just find out. There might be some conditions we've put into place. Let's just go again. You know, sometimes this stuff doesn't work immediately once you make those changes. Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up for service. You just need to refresh the page. So this is how you kind of like close the case, because it's a process, right? It's a process. You just close it and you mark it as closed. That's when it's going to come up, but you don't see it in like, you know, because you cannot, how would I put it? You cannot create a new case and mark it as closed. It doesn't make sense, right? You have to follow the case support process, which is new, working, escalated, and the likes. So imagine you're creating a new case. The first thing you want to do with the case is you want to have it as new. You cannot create a new case and make it close. According to Salesforce, that does not exist. It doesn't make sense. Do you get what I mean? So you have to select one of this option, and once you've selected that option, in the case life cycle, you'll be able to see the close option. In addition to that, if you go to the case objects and we go to the fields and relationship, the status, if you go down and we edit status, okay? So closed, like once you, like what this means is closed, right? And you don't want to make it default, something like that. That doesn't make sense. That's number one. Number two, I think you should be able to yeah, that has to do with opportunities, but that's fine. But one thing I'm trying to say is that you cannot create a new case and select close as the option available. That's not what Salesforce recommends. That's not what Salesforce support process is all about. And that's why you couldn't change it. However, you can close the case based on the life cycle of the case. That's where you see the close option there, but you don't see it when you're creating a new case. I hope that makes sense, because that's the only explanation I can give to it. It's not something that you can control. It's something that Salesforce created out of the box. Okay, does that help? I know I've shown you guys a lot of things that I haven't taught you guys, but again, that's how you learn, right? You learn from asking questions. So Isaac, unmute yourself and speak so we can go to one or two things before we end the class. Isaac, please.
Thank you. Sorry if I taking you back. While filling out the new case on the template, what does the SLA violation, what does it stand for in that?
So SLA violation is service level agreement. It's something, again, has to do with the business. Okay, everything here is what Salesforce recommends as a way to create a case in a business. Okay, everything here you can change, but according to my understanding, SLA violation is this case, has this case violated SLA? Has this case violated service level agreement? Service level agreement is this: if a user submits a case within 12 hours, you need to attend to that case. If within 12 hours has elapsed and you haven't attended to the case, then SLA violation has been breached. So this is just a way to collect data. Do we have SLA violation? Yes or no? Service level agreement. Have we violated our agreement with our customer that says all cases needs to be attended to within 12 hours? Okay, that's what it means, Isaac. Okay, let's carry on. Before we carry on, I want to, we have to do web to case, okay, in order for us to test the auto response through. But before we do that, there was one aspect that we need to cover as well when it comes to assignment through, and that's assigning a case to a queue. When I demonstrated the assignment through, I demonstrated assigning a case to a user, but there's also that option of assigning a case to a queue. So this is the rule we created earlier. And we said paid members to go to test user. But what if what if we want to assign to a queue? The same way you assign to a user, you can assign to a queue. But before you can assign to a queue, you have to create that queue. Okay? So you can assign a case to a user and you can assign a case to a rule. But before you do that, you have to create the queue. You go to queues and you click on new, meaning that I want to create a group of people that can pick up a case in the system. For instance, like I think Choma asked earlier, operation people are a team of people that are working on helping people to resolve their issues or cases in the system. What if I don't want to use generic user? I want to make sure that a group of people can go to a queue and pick up a pending case that has not been resolved and assign it to themselves. That's the function of a queue. A queue is that these are the current cases in the system, and we want this case to be resolved by a group, anyone that belongs to the operations team. But instead of you doing it manually by assigning based on automatic assignment rule, which only gives access to one person at a time, you can create a queue, okay? And you select the objects for that queue, which is the case. Then you select the users for that queue, okay? You select the users for the queue and you save. So now I've created a queue. Obviously, it's better for you to say case queue, okay? So it's much descriptive. You have case queue. And now if you go to the front end, you will see, just let me hide this for 1 minute. If you go to the front end, you will see the options to view case queues. This is case queue. The queue we just created is now appearing under our filters, our list view, okay? Case queue, meaning that if we assign a case to a queue, it will come here. It will not be assigned to any user, but it will be assigned to case queue. So now let's go to our assignment rule and change this from paid members to test user to case queue. So instead of assigning to test user, I'm going to select queue and I'm going to assign it to case queue, okay? I have selected case queue. A pop-up appears, I select case queue, and that's how I assign it to case queue, okay? So I save. Remember previously, if the case record type is paid members, it goes to test user. But right now, I'm assigning to a queue, not a user, which gives us the liberty or the privilege or gives the team the opportunity to pick up any case as they come in instead of being rigid to select or to transfer a case to a particular user. I'm going to be giving it to a queue. So anyone can just pick it up when they are free. Okay. So now the same thing I'm going to do. The only difference is I'm going to assign active assignment rule. Then I save. As you can see, the case owner is now a case queue, meaning that if I go to my cases and I go to the case queue, I will see this case is no longer test user, but case queue. Anyone working in the system as operation person, maybe when you're creating your case queue, you can determine who can have access to this case queue. Then they can just select that case and accept. Once they accept that case, this case 1032 will now be changed from case Q to Babatope Olajide, because Babatope Olajide is the guy that has accepted that case. 1032 is now assigned to Babatope Olajide. If test user had logged in and accept that case, test user will now become the owner of the case. Okay, that's how to optimize your operation team, so you don't assign cases to people that are not available to work. You open it and you put it in a queue, and those that are available to work for that day will go to the case queue and they will pick up the case to work on for that day. Okay, so before we end the class, I want to demonstrate web to lead. That's very important. Even if you're working as a BA, if you're working as a consultant, you'll be using web to lead, or you'll be recommending web to lead to your clients. So it's very important to understand web to lead. Before we get into web to lead, I want to give you the background information on how you can get a case into the system. The first way is you come to cases and you click on new. That's number one way of getting cases into the system. You enter it internally. Okay? Any user that has access to the case object can just go internally and click on new, and they create a case. In addition, you can create a case by just sending an email to a support team. For instance, you can create a case by sending an email to support@blackforce.ca. When you send an email here, it will create a case in your case object. And lastly, you can create a case by filling a form online. You can go to Blackforce website, you fill a form online, and it automatically creates a case in the system. So I've shown you 3 ways right now: the new, which you create internally, via email, and via web to lead. There's also a dialer which Salesforce has, but I haven't used that before, so I cannot teach you that. However, also know that there are other ways which you can create a case, but let's limit it to email to case and web to case. So how do you create case from the web? Salesforce has what they call web to case. Can you see? Web to case. This web to case is a very simple way you can generate HTML code that any developer can place on a public domain website. They fill the form and it goes into the Salesforce record page. Let's see how it works. I go to web, I click on web to case, and I want to generate a support case. Okay, so support case created. Okay, that's the template I'm using for auto response. But then again, you can change this if you want. You can change it to something else. Okay, then I click on save. So now going back to web to case HTML generator, I will select the fields of interest. What are the fields of interest? The fields of interest are the fields you want your customer to fill when they are submitting a case. Right now, this is done internally. If you're doing it externally, what do you need? Typically, you want the first name, the last name, the email, and the message, right? Maybe not. Maybe you want something else. It's totally up to you. But you need to show it here. This is where you select the case, okay? You select the fields of interest. After selecting the fields of interest, let me select case record type because that's important, right? Then you select where the case return part would be when the customer completes this form. For instance, if I click on send message and my case was submitted successfully in Salesforce, where should the customer go to after submitting that case? This is where you specify the domain. So for instance, I can just say google.ca, okay? but obviously you want to put your business website here, blackforce.ca, okay? Then you want to use a Google reCAPTCHA in case you don't want people to spam your website, meaning that you don't want robots or bots to be submitting cases all the time so they can mess up your system. Now you click on generate. When you click on generate, it automatically generates the HTML fields in form of templates, which you can use on the website. Don't worry too much about this as an admin. Even as a consultant, you don't need to worry about it. All you just need to do is copy and give this to your developer or someone technical within the system or the organization, and they will be able to understand what the HTML code is. For this learning, I would assume that I am the developer, right? And I've copied that HTML, and I will place that HTML in one of my code editing tool, which I can show you. Let me just stop sharing and I'll show you that. Okay, this is my Visual Studio Code, and I just want to paste that HTML I received from Salesforce, which is this. And I'm just going to save it, and I'm going to call it case.html, meaning that this is going to be the page which the developer is going to build. Okay, developer is going to build this page and is going to publish this page on the company website. So if I want to view what this page looks like, all I just need to do is open case.html, and I will be able to see what the page looks like. So let me just open that and show you what the page looks like, okay? Just give me 1 minute. Let me open it for you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to show you what the page looks like. This is what the page looks like. Can you guys see my screen right now? Co-host, can you confirm? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is what the page looks like. The case.html is just a bunch of HTML from the Salesforce org, which I generated and I gave to my developer. And once the developer publishes the HTML, this is what they get to see. But obviously, this can be styled properly to look like this. Okay, it can be styled properly to look like this. That's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the developer. All you just need to know or to make sure that is you can collect the right information from the user. So now, if I collect the first name or the contact name, I collect the email, blackforcedemo@gmail.com, the phone number, the subject, description, hello, my calendar is blank. Then the case record type, which is paid members. Okay, I just fill the form as a customer, a client that is complaining about a blank calendar on their training schedule. I click on submit. It's going to go to where I specified when I was creating my HTML. Remember, this is where I specified, okay? And it was blackforce.ca. That's why it is blackforce.ca, okay? Now the expectation is this case should be entered in the Salesforce org. How do I do that? I go to all my open cases. Then I will see my calendar is blank. But what's the interesting part? The interesting part is it assigns it to the case queue. the case queue, because the record type is paid members, so it's following our assignment rule. Okay, and as you can see, the origin is web. Even though we did not specify the origin when we are filling the form, it automatically selects web because web is the default origin. Okay, and there is also a possibility of you hiding these fields within your HTML. If you are very technical, you'll be able to do that, but don't let me overwhelm you with editing HTML. It's very basic, but don't let me overwhelm you with that. But you can make changes to the origin. If you want to make it web Blackforce, web Google, web whatever, maybe you have like 10 company websites, you can specify the specific origin. And remember, this is a pick list value. You can add more pick list value if you want, okay? And you would see the templates we use for the paid members. This is the auto response I was talking about. As you can see, it is using the auto response for paid members, meaning that the system automatically checks what the record type is and is using that auto response, which we created earlier for paid members, to auto reply the user. Similarly, if we want to send unpaid members case, obviously you don't let the user determine whether it's paid member or unpaid member. This is something you do behind the scene. Let's say if they are logged in, you check their subscription and you find out if this user is paid member or unpaid member, and you code this behind the scene. You don't let the user select it. That's my point, okay? I'll just call it unpaid member, okay? Unpaid member complaint, okay? The same thing, I just select unpaid member. The redirection page goes to blackforce.ca, and I go to my cases. I refresh this, then I select all open cases, because anytime you obviously enter a case, it is going to be open case for now. As you can see, the owner is not case queue. The owner is Babatope Olajide, because my assignment rule says if the case is unpaid member, it should be assigned to Babatope Olajide. Also, you can just create a queue for this. You don't have to say Babatope Olajide. You can just say unpaid member queue, paid member queue. And you see that the case has been entered in the email, and the email that was sent out to the user is unpaid members template, used unpaid members template. And if I go right here, I will see the unpaid members templates being used to communicate with the client. So you can see that the case object is so powerful. But if you think case is just to collect data and see records, you're wrong. There is more to the case object. You just need to know how it works. How do you get started? Type in case here and see all the options that comes with the case. There's case merge, meaning that I can merge two cases together. There's case team. There is row, meaning that instead of me using a queue, I can use case team and say a group of people are working to resolve a case. There is auto response rules, which you've seen. There's assignment rules, but there's also comment triggers. In cases, you can communicate with the owner of the case using comments. So for instance, if I go to the related tab of this case, and I can enter a new comment, and someone internally would see this comment about a case, okay? And you will be able to communicate. This is it, okay? So these are the things you can do with the case objects. Tomorrow, we're going to complete this session by looking into email to case. Okay, we're going to look into email to case, and we're going to look into escalation rules tomorrow. So I'm going to take a pause here to find out if you guys understand what I've just said so far. I've shown you how to do web to case. You don't have to worry about the HTML side of things. You just need to be able to generate this HTML for your admin, for your developer, sorry. In addition to that, you need to know what queues are. You need to know how to assign cases to queues based on rule entry. And you need to know how to create email templates for different rule entries which you're interested in. So let me stop here and open the floor again to answer some of your questions. So please raise your hand up and I'll call you according to how your hands are being raised. Okay, so please raise your hand so I can attend to that. And if there are no questions, we can end the class for today. Okay. Habisoye, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. This was from my previous question. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Babs, can unmute yourself and speak, please.
Yes, thank you again. We'll take the class. I assume the purview of the class, the admin class, doesn't have telephone integration here in this case, right? Maybe until we get to Service Cloud. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Repeat that again.
So what I'm saying is that this session that we're taking in the admin curriculum, there's nothing like the telephone integration, right? Maybe integrating to Avaya or to Amazon. I know you didn't touch on that. I just want to. I think it's usually going to be in the service. Is that called the Service Cloud? Is that correct?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
No worries. Ola Kate, please. Unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, good evening. There's a place that when you are allocating the cases that says if criteria is met, are you the one that will create the criteria, or is it just there by default?
Again, one thing I want you to know is this. Whatever you're doing as a system admin is driven by the business. So the business analyst will give you what you need to do. A system admin needs to know where to go and do it. So we are creating a hypothetical situation whereby we are determining, okay, this criteria is met. The job of a system admin is to know how to select the criteria. But the BA would determine all that. The business will determine all that. So don't worry about the criteria. Worry about, if you're given the criteria, do you know what to do with the criteria? Do you know how to configure it as a system admin? Okay, so that's my answer to that. Don't worry about the criteria. Worry about how to do it if you're given at work. Okay. Jane, unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, Babatope. I have a question about the case queue. So after the case queue is built up, I was just wondering if there's a next step whereby the task is then assigned to, say, the individual users in the case, like individual users to now take care of those cases. Is that something that we can also configure and maybe set up like how the cases just get distributed within the team after it goes to the queue?
No, when it goes to the queue, the user, any user that have access to this queue can just go and accept it. And once they accept it, they pick up the case, right? But we can have auto workflow rules, flows, and all those kind of stuff behind the scene if you want to. But obviously we haven't gotten there yet, and there's no reason to touch that. But if the business wants to even automate further, they can automate. But the queue is a very good place to start. Because imagine you already have a queue. Why do you still want to automate it again? It doesn't make much sense, right? But then again, it is possible to further automate it and say, okay, when it gets to this queue, I want it to assign to this after 2 minutes, after 3 minutes, and stuff like that. Do you get?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the business that will further determine that. But then again, we shouldn't don't let us talk about automation yet. When we get there, we'll start using it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Tash Patel, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi. So I have a question regarding email to case. So can I ask it or should I ask it tomorrow?
We haven't done it yet, but you can ask it very brief. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want that out. So if we are using email to case, so whenever a customer would email on that particular email ID, it would open up a case in Salesforce, right? So,
yes.
But when an agent or a user has already worked on a case and he has closed the case, and when customer again replies on the same email thread, would the case open again?
I believe so.
And
you should open the case and you should start working on the case again.
And so is there a way like we can create a new case and not open the previous case?
Yeah. We can configure that to create a new case. And I think it can actually create a new case if the existing case is closed, right? Because it's going to be checking for the subjects. It's going to be looking for so many things. And you can even determine when a new case is created and when an existing case is updated based on the subject of that case. Okay? So, yeah. Okay.
So, how would we configure upon the subject? Like, should we create a criteria for a subject? Like, if the subject includes this keywords, it should create a new case. Or we can say, like, if the status is closed, then just create a new case.
So, like I said, we haven't done that yet. So let's do that tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you guys have any other questions? Do you guys have any other questions for tonight? Okay, if you don't have any questions for tonight, we can close today and I will see you guys tomorrow. Please review this video and let's have a good session tomorrow. Take care, guys. All the best, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.